A reckless shooting on a busy city street, an innocent bystander hit and killed by a bullet. It sounds like last weekend in Toronto, but it's happened in various cities in Canada too many times. And here in Vancouver, one of the most notorious cases has resulted in the shooter convicted of second-degree murder. The shooting took place in Vancouver 8 years ago. It started as an exchange of gunfire between drug dealers near a busy street on a Saturday night. One of the criminals was killed, but a stray bullet killed a 15-year-old boy as well, Alfred Wong, who was with his parents in a car that just happened to be driving by. The shooter, Kane Carter, was 23 years old, involved in crime since he was a teenager. Accounting for time served, the earliest Carter can apply for parole is 2039, 13 years from now. Vancouver Police Inspector Mike Hurd joins us now. He was the head of the investigation that ended up solving this case. How does it feel to finally get to the point where the killer here has been convicted and sentenced?
It feels really good. I think that it's been a long process. It's been almost 8 years. And I think anytime you put that much work, effort, and time into something and kind of finally see it through and get justice for the family, I obviously think it's a bit of a relief for sure.
The timing of this interview, the timing of the sentencing in your case, more or less overlaps with what happened in Toronto on St. Clair. Big difference there. There was not a 15-year-old boy, innocent bystander, who was hit, but still there's a lot of public pressure in Toronto to kind of resolve that case. How was it for you? How did it feel at the Vancouver Police Department? Did you get a sense of the public pressure?
Absolutely. I think that as a member of the organization, obviously running the investigation, I live in the community. We're not immune to, obviously, media coverage, social media, speaking to neighbors, friends. You go for a haircut, you go for dinner. People know what you do for a living. And everyone, obviously, based on the kind of horrific nature of this, everybody asks you about it. And I think that, that pressure does build. And obviously, as the years go on, the pressure just kind of keeps on mounting. And it's always horrible kind of seeing a life lost, but an innocent youth kind of with a life ahead of him in such a horrific way. Obviously, it weighs on me and all the investigative team and members of the organization. You've worked
on homicide cases, you worked on anti-gang cases. As you worked your gang contacts, which I assume you and the other officers did you get a sense from them that they felt that maybe this case in particular with the 15-year-old bystander had crossed a line, and I don't know, were they willing to help you resolve this case?
Unfortunately, no. I think that you get that in the mafia kind of underworld kind of movies. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think in the real world on this, everyone is completely self-centered. They're worried about themselves. And I think a lot of the challenges in getting this trial or these charges approved is just trying to get witnesses on board. So people that you think obviously would be tied to the group that obviously are aware of what's happened. They have insider information. They've spoken about it. They actually have evidence that would go towards the investigation. Based on the nature of the incident, a 15-year-old, you think they would come forward. But that was a lot of our time spent is just trying to deal with witnesses, get them on board. And I think when you look at the underworld and some of these people, like they don't have views like you and I may have. I think they're a bit skewed in a certain sense where Kane that night they viewed as a bit of a hero and they viewed him as saving a life by shooting and killing an intended hitman. So, you're looking at things from a different perspective on both sides, and trying to get those people to come forward is always a challenge.
And he's not admitted, I guess, that he did the shooting as far as I know.
No, he's not.
Yeah, but he's been convicted, no question about that. And I just wonder if you think that what's happened to him, to Kane Carter, to the 17 years that he'll have to wait before he is even able to apply for parole, do you think it has or is going to change him?
I don't know. I think that's up for him to determine, right? I think that at the end of the day, I think that we all want people to be better people. We don't want anyone to waste their lives. But I think definitely based on his actions and some of his previous actions, he definitely needs some time away for rehabilitation. I think he needs some time away from society to make society safer as a whole. And I think the only person that can answer that is Kane Carter.
All right, we have more to talk about in this case. Big question is, does resolving a case like this, does this kind of sentence end up sending a signal to other people in the criminal world? So we're going to talk to you more about that after the break. All right, let's continue our conversation with Vancouver Police Inspector Mike Hurd, who led the team that helped convict Kane Carter. He shot and killed another criminal near a busy street in Vancouver, but also killed a 15-year-old boy who was just in a car that was driving by. Carter was just sentenced to at least 17 years in prison before he can apply for parole. Inspector Hurd, you've dealt with a lot of gang members over the years, and so a big question that's, I think, relevant in Toronto, it's certainly relevant in Vancouver. When a case like Carter's is finally resolved, when he is convicted of second-degree murder, when he's told that he's not going to be able to apply for parole for at least 17 years, do you think that has any kind of deterrent impact on other people in the criminal world?
Absolutely, I do. I think when it comes down to, obviously there's accountability for Kane, there's closure for the family and kind of starting that healing process, but I think that the message it sends to other criminals and kind of the criminal underworld is that at the end of the day, we will always and relentlessly kind of target the individuals that cause these and do these kind of crimes. I think that, over the years, we had a rash of kidnappings back in like the early 2000s. We became really good at kind of solving those, and those kind of went by the wayside. But I think that, all the investigations I've worked over the years and talking to a number of individuals, listening to individuals on wiretap investigations, they're really cognizant of these charges and convictions. It does make them concerned, and I do think it makes them think twice. I think that if these investigations go unchecked, we don't solve them. I think that actually creates more problems for the police and for public safety in general. If the offenders know that there is no ramifications for their actions, there is no kind of checks and balances to stop those actions.
And what's interesting in the Kane Carter case, based on what I've read of the sentencing decision, I mean, he made a bunch of decisions. This was not a, crime of passion, if we even use that term. He made a decision to show up there that night with a gun, and when his colleague was, I guess, getting shot at or about to be attacked, Carter was really quick in pulling out a gun and firing back. I mean, he was there because he decided he had a gun and he was willing to use it.
Yeah, like if I think that for me and the Wong family had a dash cam, and it's quite chilling, and I think I'll live with that forever, of listening to the voices and the shooting as they kind of come to that intersection at Broadway and Ontario. But it's 6 lanes of traffic that the families are driving on. Carter's kind of set back 2 car lengths on Ontario Street, and he's firing across kind of indiscriminately through traffic and hits Mr. Whiteside as he's running on the other side of the street, on the north side of the street. So
Mr. Whiteside is the other criminal, the one who actually came out and was going to shoot one of Carter's colleagues,
associates,
right?
Yeah. And so he was laying in wait, and I think that it's one thing to own and possess a gun, and I think in a moment of in the heat of the moment, to be able to actually deliver those rounds and to shoot someone across that distance as a running target just goes to show you like the kind of ability and training that these gangsters use and have when it comes to their familiarity with firearms.
When you heard the news from Toronto, however you did, maybe on your phone on Saturday night, that there had been gunfire at a street festival, that a couple of people were killed, other people were injured, what went through your mind?
Just the tragedy. I think that I know that just listening to the news information and everything I've read and seen online, it sounds like it's 2 gangsters that have targeted each other, but the people and the trauma that it causes around, I think the first responders are one, and I still hear from first responders about the Wong case, and fire, EHS, doctors, and ambulance attendants to this day. I just think about everyone that has to come there and kind of clean up the mess. I think about the families involved, the loved ones, the people that are hit and kind of seeing the gunfire. It's causing a ton of trauma for a bunch of people, and causes people to, it impacts our safety, and it impacts our enjoyment of life, and that's not what this country's about, and that's the part that really upsets me the most.
I have a big question for you, and only about a minute and a half at most to answer it, but from your perspective as a veteran police officer, what should be done, what can be done to try to convince people in the criminal world not to use their guns in public settings where there's a high chance of hitting an innocent bystander?
I don't think there's anything you can tell them, quite frankly. I think that at the end of the day, the only thing that really works is sentencing and setting that message and tone to others. I think that if you see incarceration, you see people being arrested, people basically being held accountable for these actions, I think that's the only thing that's going to set the tone for others.
Well, you certainly achieved that in the Kane Carter case. It's a terrible case, but it is, we're at a conclusion of it. Mike Hurd, an inspector with the Vancouver Police Department. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.